Welcome to Humanity, the epicenter of ideas surrounding transformative change that will revolutionize the way our world interacts with technology.
So joining me today is Sarah Govindragan, Head of Mixed Play Engineering and Chief Architect at Mattel. Sarah is an accomplished transformational leader in media communications and consumer products. He has led multiple transformation initiatives and enhanced the technology landscape in many Fortune 100 companies, including AT&T, DirecTV, and Wells Fargo. Sarah, welcome to the Humanity Podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Kevin.
Really happy to have you on because one of the things that we had talked about prior was just the broad range of impacts in terms of how people interact with technology. And given the fact that I've got young kids that are all 11 and under, and that you work for Mattel, I thought, it's extremely timely because I'm watching my kids kind of change how they orient to the world with technology and some of their toys they play with. So why don't you first start with sharing your background, and then we can start to talk a little bit about what you're doing at Mattel and some of the interesting things that you have going on.
Yeah. Again, thanks for this conversation. I think hopefully we can add some meaningful dialogue to this whole digital transformation that's going on in the industry. I've been 25 plus years in the technology sector, right? Working through many of the companies that you listed out. And I think primary background is around building high performance digital applications across media. I had a big play in when we launched NFL Sunday Ticket with DirecTV almost 10 years ago. Nice. And when they did HD and the revolution that started all of this in 2005. It's probably light years back, right? And I think main and also work a lot in technology strategy, defining it, finding the signal in the noise, and laying out a roadmap that we can execute on. That's primarily what we've been working on, and it's across all these incredible companies, right? Never shy of a big problem. So.
Nice. Well, so I guess it would be good for us to start with in your current role at Mattel. Obviously, you've made big changes to the organizations prior. I wanted to talk a little bit about the changing consumer preferences in terms of why Mattel made their transformation. And so I think at first, let's talk about the transformation that Mattel's made and kind of what led to that.
Yeah, I think if you look at the last decade, right? I mean, it's defined. The start of it is defined by what happened with the whole smartphone era, and then iPad, and everybody else contributing to it, whether it's Google and Samsung of the world, and eventually the entire technology stack bleeding into all aspects of the society, especially with respect to Mattel, right? With what it did to the kids in general, right? From their day-to-day activities that they do at home, or whether they do it at school, or their after-school activities, all have been driven by some kind of a digital touch point, whether it's the touch devices like the iPhone and the Android devices, or even the other things like we don't talk about as much as the voice devices and Amazon Alexas and Google Home are brought to bear so far. Within that, I mean, if you look at Mattel's claim to fame is the 75 years that it's been in existence is about building engaging physical toys. There had to be a relook at, okay, what do we have to do to play in this new digital age where the kids are touching digital gadgets almost on every minute of every day, right? I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, whether they're, as I said, whether they're playing in school, learning in school, playing games, or even things like when they're on the street, when they're playing with their hovercraft. Everything is
Right.
Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connections built into it. So it's pervasive. So we had to figure out how do we innovate Mattel to be relevant in that field, right? as well as there was another dimension that was going on as well. Like we had to figure out how to make this iconic companies almost that has defined many generations of play for all these since the World War, right? 75 years. I mean, instantly, 2020 is our 75th anniversary as well.
Wow.
So we had to reinvent Barbie and Hot Wheels and Fisher Price, American Girl. I mean, you know these iconic brands have been there for many generations, but how do we build the next generation of toys? So that was the key part of it. While doing it, we had also need to look at from a shareholder value perspective, how do we get to profitability as we play in this space? Not because we didn't want to do tech toys for tech's sake,
Right.
but for consumer experiences. At the end of it, delivering value for our kids, who are primary audience, and also our shareholder that's invested in the company's growth. I think that was the I would say the catalyst. 2.5 years, 3 years ago now, right? End of 2017, when quite a number of these companies were going bankrupt. So like Toys R Us, for example, went bankrupt. One of our biggest customers,
Right.
and it shows how toy industry has evolved, and Mattel had to evolve in this new world when one of our primary retail outlets is gone, and the consumer behavior is changing. I mean, and then those are like the catalysts, I would say, to relook at what we needed to do, right, as a company.
So Sarah, one of the things we talked about prior to was that there's this external facing. How do you guys orient and still draw engagement from kids playing with in a new digital way, right? There's also the internal digital transformation that you talked about as well, just in terms of how you guys were focusing on driving innovation cycles and how you guys were working through those types of things within Mattel. So why don't we talk about that side as well, and then we can come back to talking about how kind of from the engagement to end consumer, how that changed. But let's first start with the internal frameworks as well that you guys established.
Sure. I think, sure, Kevin. So the one thing to think about, right, this transformation had multiple legs to it, right? One was, how do we react to the consumers? The second one was, how do we even build products going forward? Prior to, if you look at 2017 and prior, a lot of this was made through a lot of physical artifacts. Designs will be drawn on some in software, a lot of it in clay and physical artifacts, and 3D printing, going back and forth between different campuses, on different time zones and different continents as well, right? Between Asia and here, and even within the US, on the East Coast, where Fisher Price is headquarters, and here we are in El Segundo. All of this was like time consuming, and it was not ideal to deal with, right? Collaboration was not happening at the pace at which we wanted to innovate on the products. Our product delivery was like anywhere from 20 plus months in terms of what we can do to bring a product to market, right? Anything that we're designing. Because there was a sense of how do I not compromise on quality, at the same time these hurdles was getting to faster pace of innovation as we were looking to transform this company. So one of the things that we did was around start of this new initiative where around the design and development needs to be 100% digital, right? In due course. So we launched this program called D3 Digital Design and Development that touched some of the core aspects of what Mattel is all about. Mattel is primarily a design company.
Right.
I mean, We produced highly engaging toys for the kids. I mean, so that they can keep playing. But the thing is about more importantly was around how do we enable our designers? I mean, this is a 3,000 plus strong community inside the company that we're working on these various aspects. In also different brands, we had to bring them together in terms of one common way of working and enable them to work faster, collaborate faster, so that we can shrink this time to market as small as possible without compromising quality at any level. Right. So instead of these physical prototypes that are going back and forth, we went completely digital. Right. I mean, and we launched a full-on digital collaboration platform. So all these designers and CAD engineers can all work on the same platform. These artifacts are created digitally, exchanged in a matter of minutes rather than days. All right, and they can provide feedback, get into a war room of sorts, and then talk through it. In fact, we are even iterating towards using VR as a mechanism, so that we can create these virtual war rooms. Right? I mean, that can put this concepts that we are already working on, right? And then people are like drawing on top of it, post-it notes and whatnot, and like now this cuts this innovation cycle really small right now.
So how, okay,
pretty amazing achievement in the show.
So Sarah, when you guys went down this endeavor, right? So how much resistance was made internally when you guys were going to change something so much for an organization that's been thriving for 75 years? It doesn't seem like that's a small movement to have that whole production cycle digitally moved into the digital world. I'm sure there were some resistance at various levels, right? Or
yeah. Organizational change management on any transformation is is pretty big. It's important as well. It can't be. I can't hear you.
I think we're just we'll pause. Yeah. I think Chris, he can't hear me right now, and there's seems to be an increasing delay.
I can hear you now.
You can hear me now? You're good? Okay.
It might be my internet connection.
I can hear you now. There was a break.
Okay. Hey, Sarah, hold up for just 1 second because we're talking. Let me just talk to the recorder just for 1 second.
My connection is spotty right now because the Ethernet's not working, so we're on Wi-Fi.
Okay.
I can fix any of those lapses in editing so it's not awkward.
Okay.
I would just
keep it going. Okay. All right. So there's a
we're fine.
Bandwidth issue on this side. So what we're going to do is just cut out all that where it was lagging and stuff. Cause I was missing what you were saying and you were missing what I was saying. But, so let's talk a little bit around how, from an idea inception of going about and looking at, the product cycle, moving it digitally versus how it was done prior. Where did this idea come from? Was it we need to do this in order to keep up with competitors, or was it just responding to kind of the tools and technology that's available?
I think it's a multifaceted problem, right? From one was how do we reduce our innovation cycle and bring to market products that we need to sell to return to profitability as quickly as possible. That was one, right? Time to market was one of the motivations. The other one was the industry was also changing. There is a short attention span from the consumer as well. So we need to be able to react quickly when they give us feedback. I think this long cycles was not helping either, right? And third is these geographical boundaries that we had already established and the way we were working was there was always a lag in feedback and reacting internally, right? So that we can have these iterations quickly. It was like it was an hurdle that was self-imposed rather than something that we would have that was coming from external. So there are all these multiple factors that led us to get to innovating and making sure that we are giving the tools for our designers, developers to get so that they can focus on what they need to do, which is like build the best products that we can, right? And all of it like had to be anchored on a strong change management. I mean, keep the impacted employees, designers in mind as we were rolling this out. It was not like a shoving down their throat. Okay, this is what you'll use because we're trying to achieve one of those goals. Like we want to build products as quickly as possible. That was not the only intent. It was like there was no compromise on quality. There was no compromise on collaboration. As we rolled out these tools and techniques, it was not. It was human-centered, design thinking enabled, a very thought-out, methodical approach. And one of the things that we did as we framed the solution, right, and the tools and how they will actually work, it was not a big bang approach as well. I mean, Mattel, with the luxury of the number of brands we support, we could go slow and learn with the most forward-looking of those brands and said, okay, let's roll it out to this group. And
Okay.
we learned quite a bit on that first rollout, and then put those changes into the platform before we rolled it out other brands as well. That was a huge. It was a fundamental mechanism for making sure the change will stick.
Right.
That was a key changer. Yeah.
And so what did your product development cycle go from, and then where is it at now after you've rolled out the platform, the digital platform?
I think all of this was like also done pre-COVID, right? I mean, we were not anticipating something like this will happen when truly everybody had to go digital. I mean, the true success, if I can look off, right? One thing is to look at did we shrink the product development cycle? Absolutely. In majority of the cycles came down less than 15 months. Right? In some complicated products, still there are other issues with testing and quality control that we still work on. But quite a number of products have shrunk in terms of the collaboration time and the product development cycle. But the biggest success came in this post-COVID situations where we launched a whole new product line called the Cave Club. And it was a global launch. It was an entirely new product line. It was not like an incremental investment on like Barbie or Hot Wheels. So there was like a lot more collaboration and a lot more ideation that needed to happen. And having something like this enabled us to launch the entire thing in less than 8 months, on all done digitally, right? From ideation to design and development, to getting that product to the shelves. I mean, that's an amazing feat for a company that takes in pride in terms of the detail, every detail that it goes through before a product comes to a shelf. So that was the biggest success, and having this you can talk about serendipity. I mean, this is a good thing in terms of being ready when our employees needed it to work this way, all of a sudden in March of 2020. So.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, that's been a common theme that I've heard from other technology leaders that have led their organizations through these types of investments to where they could do their collaboration and get work done on digital platforms. Prior, it was a huge ask and there was a bunch of internal selling that led into it. But as soon as this hit, it became the saving grace for the overall organization, right? So, I mean, how quickly was this up and in place before COVID hit and things started shutting down in March?
It was like in certain cases it was up like within a weekend, right?
Okay.
In other because we were ready with the tools and we were already in motion. In other cases where some brands are not actually adopted it, they're still in the pipeline. We had to accelerate their rollout, and that took some time. But it's still weeks, not months and years, when we would have done it otherwise, right?
Right, right. And so I guess, so one of the things I keep thinking about, okay, so now you've changed the workspace, you've changed how people collaborate into this, digital world. Has that changed? Has there been any byproducts of how people look at technology as a result of seeing that, this has been the platform that's allowed innovation cycles to increase exponentially, as well as being able to keep business operations up and moving through a time where we're working remote and things are shut down?
I think it's probably a couple of dimensions there, right? One is Mattel being a design company where technology or IT in general is a service provider, right? I mean,
Yep.
that respect has grown, by leaps and bounds because of the time it took for us to react, to get the designers and developers to be more productive and quickly, right? I mean, in a matter of time. It's not just the design and development tools, as well as like things like what we have done for web conferencing, what we have done for collaboration on a day-to-day basis, even talking between two HR folks, for that matter, right? These, like, all of them, the barriers have come down with the tools that we have rolled out. The second is around. There's also there was all these needs that have been pent up, never made it to the surface. Like I want to be able to ideate freely on, as though I'm in a conference room with sticky notes and stuff like that. Like that's nobody thought of okay, there could be a way to do it digitally, and you're not even in the same room, and so we have found tools and techniques to actually to test it and roll it out as well. Right? Those are things that we have done. And then there's always another aspect as well, and we are also had to do it securely as well, given the attack surface and your network is extended into people's homes. We have to do this as secure as possible without impacting their user experiences. So those were like things that had to be rolled out in quick fashion, which doesn't impede their way of life. No matter whether you work in HR, whether you work in product development, or any department in between. So.
Right. All right. Well, I guess, one of the other things we were talking about earlier was, the changing consumer side of this, right? Internally, you guys have set up the infrastructure and allowed the company to work in this digital fashion from at the core of the essence of what Mattel is on the product development cycle, right? Now, as I mentioned earlier, I've got young kids. Their playroom has been, as they get older, especially too, is more established within the construct of an iPad, right? That is where the different things that they do and they play, kind of, you load it up, you play in that. Cleanup's relatively easy, and that tends to be where lots of kids will spend their time if they're going to do that type of playtime, if you will, right? So, I guess walk me through what were you guys observing on the consumer changing, the consumer demand change side? Were you responding, or were you guys ahead of this and thinking, here's how we could apply the same physical toys and do a digital representation, and here's how we can draw engagement? Or did it, walk me through how you guys were starting to come up with those types of ideas?
I think the digital is here to stay. I mean, the iPads, as you said, from a parent perspective, it's a single investment, and then you add apps on it, and then it's a multiplier effect, right? It's in terms of the value of the investment that you made, and keeping the kids engaged for hours on end as you manage screen time and so on and so forth. So as we coming from a physical toys and how play was defined for many, many years and decades prior to this, we had to relook at this problem. So what we coined as a term is like, we call it mixed play, right? I mean, mixed play is like, how can we merge digital and physical together while we be relevant in that conversation? At the same time, can we be part of that multiplier effect that the parents are looking for as they invest in these digital gadgets that they've invested, right? Whether it's iPad or the Samsung tabs or anything in between. Right. That was the I would say the foundation in which we were thinking. So we had the IP. I mean, whether it's Hot Wheels, I mean, we make millions of cars every year. I mean, kids love those cars still. But the thing is, how do we make it relevant when they are playing it, when they're playing with their iPad, and vice versa, so that we're giving the kids what they want, whether digital, when they're playing in the digital medium, whether it's the iPad or even the gaming media as well. So we had to inject ourselves in there. So what we have done there is like created a mechanism for creating a digital twin, right? With the old line that we launched last year called All Fields ID, we put a NFC tag on every car, so it's uniquely identifiable and it has a persona, not only in your real life. So it's a Mustang. It's usually kids name their cars whatever they want as well as you can take that car that you bought and that you're playing with in the physical world into the digital and play an high-speed racing game. Yeah. And then you can level up that car, and we are like in early stages of where that will go, in fact, and how that will pan out in terms of number of experiences we will build. And we've done the same thing with our partnerships with Forza, for instance, with Microsoft. Right? And our Hot Wheels play a huge part in some of those games. The other thing is like other line that we have done something significant in the space is like in dinosaur is a big thing, right? I mean, it's not because of Jurassic and what Universal has done there as well. And what kids have taken to dinosaur, like what kids have done with Barbie and dolls in general, and cars and Hot Wheels in general as well, right? But dinosaur is a huge attraction for the kids. So we've done very similar stuff with that. I mean, but it's also in this case, it allowed us to build some learning platforms as well. So you can obviously play with your the dinosaur collection that you have, as well as whether it's T-Rex or any of the minions that you bought with them. But also you can scan them into an app where you can learn about it, play Jeopardy, and watch content. I mean, so we built this entire ecosystem that can pretty much enhances all the experiences that you expect when you only have an iPad, for example, right? And you're in YouTube Kids and watching something. Right. Now you're like it's you can easily go between digital and physical, and very relevant content to what do you like, really.
Right, and so it's funny.
That's one of the biggest.
It's funny as you mentioned this, Sarah, because my 4-year-old, he'll come. We have about 100 yards of Hot Wheel track in our house because I have 3 boys, right? And that's what they do, right? Set up a labyrinth of tracks, and what he found was that there's an online Hot Wheel track game where you could build it all online, and you can actually do the first-person racing view of what the tracks you could build out. So it's funny because when you're saying in that mixed play scenario, it really is. I mean, if he's ever watching that and building something there, he almost always has his tracks there. And it's like his imagination can be ported one way or the other. And that experience that I've watched him have of like building something and then driving through it, I mean, it's really interesting. And I actually think it helps to self-support on either side. right? To the point, I mean, and what you guys were talking about from a dinosaur toy on that side, I mean, you're adding an education overlay on top of it, right? To where it's not just playing something and just physical play, it's actually an education tool as well, right? So, and it seems really interesting with my
We did.
with my parent hat on. It's been really interesting to see.
One of the things it also enabled us to do, I mean, just to add to what you're saying, Kevin, is around. We also integrated with because these are electronic connected toys. It not only allows them to have fun, but at the same time, meaningful fun. We extended it into the Apple ecosystem of playgrounds, where people learn coding in an easy fashion, right? I mean, it's block coding in many aspects. Now they are able to light up the car or build the track using these constructs that we integrated with them. So it's like there is the lines are blurring between fun and games and what they can learn while they're at it. I think that's been a huge unlocker, and we're doing the same thing with some of our partners on with Barbie and Girls Who Code and stuff like that. So it's like it's the option. We are I would say we are in the bottom of the first inning right now. We have a long way to go on the next play. We definitely made some. We defined this category, what it means to be playing in this digital physical combination, and how can we enhance the kids' experience more than what it is right now. So.
Well, that's really neat. Yeah, that's interesting. So I am trying to think through. So what do you, I mean, I don't know if you're at liberty to talk about this, but what's next? What else are you guys working on, right? In terms of the end consumer experience, and what do you envision, this continuing forward? What types of strategies are you going to put out there? And
I think the couple of things to highlight there that I can privy to talk about is like one, given that Mattel, it was 75th anniversary this year. We launched a new line called Creations.Mattel, Mattel Creations, in fact. What it does is it's our collaboration with some of our designers in the society, respected, and we're building some great collectibles with them. So and we continue to launch them as we speak. I mean, we started almost 2 months ago. There are almost 8 products out there, but there's more coming in that space. But it's very unique product line. I think you should check it out and see. What we're trying to do is like not only play in the kids space, but can we give some of our very dedicated customers who are in the collector space, something to link back to, right? And then we're doing this in a fast-paced manner. We launched this web experience and the store in a pretty quick manner, and we're doing this in an experimental manner. So we launch it. We get their feedback, learn, and quickly iterate through it so that we can we're building something not just for the end for the kids, but also there's something for our collectors audience as well. And the other thing that is exciting is around, which is part of our multi-year strategy, is Mattel has outlined as to become an IP-focused, high-performing toy company. What does that mean? I mean, we have a ton of IP. I mean, our IP is second to none in terms of number of characters we actually have in our stable, right? So we're trying to bring them to life with our content partnerships. There are a ton of movies coming out in the next few years. Content coming out on Netflix as well. So all of that will drive consumer engagement on all mediums that we interact with, whether it's social medium or even YouTube as a platform, and eventually drawing to our drawing to our retail experiences that we work with with our partners as well.
All right.
All of that is
Well, Sarah, I just want to thank you for joining with us today. I mean, to me, looking at an organization like Mattel that's been around for 75 years, happy anniversary, it's fascinating to see how you guys have added on this digital experience and have been able to do so in a way that isn't just that's actually value creation side of it too, whether it's on the education side or creating much more of an immersive experience, but that's still complementary to your traditional model that you guys have been successful at rolling out for the last 75 years. So it's been really interesting to hear. I just want to thank you for your time that you spent with us today. I also want to recognize our listeners. Thank you for tuning in to the Humanity Podcast. I hope you gained some valuable knowledge today. And please subscribe if you haven't already and send us any feedback for our ideas that you would like to see in future shows. I'm your host, Kevin Castle, and you've been listening to Humanity.